Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. Salam keluarga satu Malaysia. First of all, I would like to welcome all the attendees for this productivity conference with the theme of driving productivity of the nations. And together with us today, we have the champion of electrical electronics productivity Nexus, Dato Seri Wong and then the champion of machinery and equipment, Mr. Ngan Boon. The focus of the discussion today is on the productivity in action, which related to the theme for this productivity conference, driving productivity of the nation. And in commemorating the 5 years anniversary of Productivity Nexus establishment, 3 subsectors productivity reports have been successfully published to highlight the performance of these subsectors, which is for the chemical, E&E and machinery and equipment. And together with us virtually today is Dato Dr. Mohamed Sany, the champion of chemical and chemical products productivity nexus. Just a quick facts about the productivity nexus, which has been established in 2017. The establishment of this productivity nexus is the strong collaboration among various stakeholders, which is from the public and private sectors. And then the formation of this productivity nexus actually to accelerate the productivity improvement initiative, which based on the new model, what we call is a private driven initiatives. The implementation are guided by the blueprint under Malaysia Productivity Blueprint, which through this blueprint actually there are 5 thrusts or what we call factor for productivity, which related to talent, digitalization, regulation, business environment and productivity mindset. Okay, led by the productivity champions. All these initiative actually involving all the industry players, association to accelerate the productivity improvement at the firm levels, sectoral and national levels. Okay, the MPC through the Delivery Management Office monitor the implementation and coordinate and facilitate the implementation and report the progress, the improvement of activities at National Productivity Council, which is chaired by the Prime Minister. So thank you Dato Seri and Mr. Mag, and of course Dato Sany, who are able to join us today for this very important session, because this year actually is the 5th year the establishment of the productivity nexus, and then of course we like to know the progress, the performance of this productivity nexus to spearhead the initiative related to productivity improvement, and then of course we like to know in terms of the contribution of this productivity nexus to the industry, respective industry for the respective nexus. Okay, thank you again. And then the objective of the forum today is focusing on the 3 subsectors, I'd like to emphasize again, which related to manufacturing sectors. And then the objective are to highlight the subsectors productivity performance and challenges faced by the subsectors. And number 2 is to showcase the impacts initiatives implemented by each productivity nexus in mitigating the challenges towards the productivity improvement of the subsectors. And next is to identify the way forwards and call for the actions in raising the productivity and competitiveness of each subsectors. Okay, the session will be divided into 3 parts. The first one is related to the issues and challenges. The second one is related to the high impact initiative from the respective productivity nexus. And then the third one is related to the way forward, how the productivity nexus can improve further the productivity of their respective nexus. Okay, the first question I would like to ask is related to the issues and challenges. Maybe for this question I would like to ask Dato Seri first. Okay, related to the issues and challenges, of course, Dato Seri Wong, as the champion of electrical and electronic productivity nexus, maybe you can share the challenges in boosting productivity performance and competitiveness in respective in this E&E sector in thriving through the unprecedented global economic turmoil. As we all aware that in 2020 the global economy has been affected by the pandemic. So for E&E, maybe you would like to know what are the challenges, or maybe during this pandemic situation, the E&E have experiencing the different situation compared to the other sectors. Dato Seri, maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Norjayadi. During the pandemic, one of the key challenge was to get the factory up and running. How quickly can we get it up and running? And I think the government has fully supported the industry by helping them to partially open and then setting up the PICAS vaccination center so that as many employees can be vaccinated as possible and the factories open up as quickly as possible. As you know, there is a big shortage of semiconductor and electronics products needed in the industry, and therefore the opening of the factories will be very important to the industry. So that was done, and we are very thankful to the government for assisting the industry to get up on their feet and start running. But the shortage was there, and is still here. But the factories now need to increase their capacity and their productivity in order to meet the demand. So one of the challenges that we faced was to try to get the SMEs and Malaysian companies to adopt Industry 4.0. There's a lot of skepticism about is it working? It must be very expensive, very difficult. I'm not sure whether I can afford it, whether there's ROI, and so on and so on. And so we embarked on a journey to try to take care of that problem. And the other area also is the electronics industry and the semiconductor industry are not well organized. We need to get them organized, especially during the pandemic, so that we can help everyone in the whole supply chain to get up and running and start running the operation and try to support the shortage of semiconductors in the industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dato Seri. Some questions I'd like to hear from Mr. Mac, which is the champion for machinery and equipment. As we all aware that M&E is very important. In fact, for the E&E sector also, they supply a lot of the machinery and equipment for the E&E. And what are the challenges that you can share with the attendees today?
Thank you, Dato. Thank you, Dr. Wong. So, I think Dr. Wong has, in a way, addressed issues that was faced by the industry during the pandemic. I think the government coming in and allowing to support the industry, even to the extent allowing partial reopening, has helped in a way to alleviate some of the problems faced by the industries. But the industries, especially in the machinery and engineering side, is getting very complex today, and the issues that it's facing is really, really serious. The issues started with the pandemic, causing supply chain and logistic. But after the going to the endemic phase, we were expecting the supply chain to ease and things to improve. However, this has not been the case. The recent Ukraine war has totally disrupted the global supply chain in the machinery and engineering sector. I mean, you look at it, Malaysia imports to a certain, as part of its manufacturing, certain very specific high quality steel and components from other countries. And we have had issues. We have issues in getting the supply from the Eastern Europe, where it is one of our main suppliers. We have also issues with our component suppliers who are both in the Europe, even in Japan and Korea and the Eastern front, and they are all having trouble in getting components to produce the components that's required by us in the supply chain. So going forward, the companies that are involved in the machinery are really, really in a dilemma, that they have a customer's compliance date, but they are unable to fulfill the customer compliance date because of this supply chain issue. So these are the present situation which hopefully between the next 1 year, it will ease off. We hope that the Ukraine issue will be resolved and things will go back to normal. And hopefully that will be the case. But back home, we are also going to look at our own industries. Malaysian machinery and M&E sectors are predominantly SMEs. So if you look at our members, almost 90% of our members are in the SMEs. Yeah. And the SMEs in Malaysia are a very special group of companies in the sense that they are all, in terms of management and in terms of financials, are limited. And therefore, the idea of helping our SME companies to come out of this issue of going forward to compete with other companies in the region is becoming an issue. Issues like how to improve productivity through automation, how to think ahead in terms of their productivity in getting resource material, and how to get the right talent to manage this improvement in productivity. So those are the issues we are having, and it's the challenges that we in the MEIF is trying to overcome. And together with MPC, we have developed quite a few programs going forward, and perhaps some of the things will be highlighted later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mac. Next, I would like to invite Dato Dr. Noor Sany, who are with us virtually today. Dato, maybe you can share the issues and challenges at the chemical and chemical products. During our delivery management office meeting recently, the program manager of chemical products did shares the productivity growth of this subsector, which shows the significant growth after during the pandemic. Actually, it shows the V-shaped growth. Maybe Dato can share on this situation. What are the challenges, and then what are the problems related to this subsector, despite the what you call the V growth of this subsector? Please, Dato.
Dr. Jadi, my fellow Nexus champions, hello. Okay, I think it's a start. Let me talk about the chemical industry. Chemical industry ni besar. Look around us. The sofa you're sitting on, the carpets you're standing on, the very fabric, baju yang kita pakai, everything is chemicals. It's a huge industry. It encompasses all of us. And in my sector, not only it's the basic chemicals, but also the other people who does cosmetics, pharmaceutical, toiletries, even chemical industrial gases, paints. Semua ni encompasses under the chemical industry. And this covers manufacturers, blenders, support services, sales and storage. So it's a huge nexus to start with. The contribution, I was informed, the contribution of the chemical industry to Malaysia was about 20-25 million USD a year. And it is anticipated to go up to about 35 to 40 million by 2030. Okay. Now we talk about the challenges. 90 to 95% of the contribution of national growth in this industry is contributed by SMEs. Yang besar-besar, the multinationals, only contribute about 5%. Unfortunately, with the SMEs, because they're small, they're quiet, they're fairly not well known, they're not organized through organizations, through associations, for example, through NGOs. Therefore, we don't get to talk to them as a grouping. So that's the first challenge. We need to touch out. We need to reach out to this 95%. We need to know who they are, where they are, and by knowing who they are, where they are, we can ultimately find out what their needs are. So that's challenge number one. Challenge number two is about the issues of talent. The university chalks out every so often a number of graduates every year. hundreds and thousands of graduates for our industry every year. But there could be a mismatch between what the industry needs, especially 5 years down the road, versus what the academia is producing. So we need to have a fine-tuned communication with academias. We need to crystal ball together with them to see what the industry needs, direction in which going, and we need to produce right graduates for this purpose. The third challenge, as I say, is leveraging on IT and database. This is very important, especially for the chemical industry. Our industry is so sophisticated, full of competition, full of complex formulas and such that without IT and database, kita tak dapat capitalize and optimize where we want to go, how we want to, what we want to do, and the way we want to do it. Thank you.
Okay, next we like to get the feedback input from our panelists today. Under the MPB, as I mentioned earlier, there are 5 trusts which are factor for productivity, which related to talent, technology, regulation, business environment, and productive mindset. Among these 5 factors, there are 3 most important, which I can share is related to talent, technology, and then business environment on the regulations. And then this, what do you call this factor? For example, across Nexus, they are experiencing the same issues, the same challenges. Okay, for example, talent, we are experiencing issues. For example, the mismatch, the shortage of talent related to automation, digital innovation, low adoptions among the SMEs, and then the third one related to business environment, related to unnecessary regulation which hinder the productivity. Okay, maybe the panelists can share. Because in the MPB, there are 43 initiatives has been outlined in order to address these issues. And then throughout the time, the numbers of the initiative has increased. And now, recently, there are nearly 120 initiatives under this productivity nexus. Maybe the panelists can share the most impactful initiatives that the nexus has implemented in mitigating the challenges, and it creates values to the subsectors and lead to the country's productivity growth. Maybe Dato Seri, maybe you can share. Yeah.
Thank you. This is an interesting question because one of the things that we were working on, I highlighted earlier, is the Industry 4.0, that the companies are very skeptical whether they can actually proceed with it. So what we have done basically is to help the companies, number one, understand what is Industry 4.0. So we did a series of education. Then following with that, we did the Plug Fest. That is to allow the company to experience the implementation of Industry 4.0 by not just giving them the programming skills and the concept of how to implement Industry 4.0, but they also choose a project from the company to work on to show the proof of concept that Industry 4.0 can be implemented and it need not be expensive and still can get the outcome. Of course, if you want to implement Industry 4.0 throughout the whole company, it will be expensive. But we can pilot different areas first to get the feel of what this Industry 4.0 is all about. And once they get the proof of concept, then they can start believing that it can be done. It need not be so expensive. So we did that with many programs throughout the year, and the feedback has been very positive by our SMEs and Malaysian companies. But of course, the E&E Productivity Nexus, with the support of MPC, cannot do it all. So what we have done is we recruited or we collaborated with many technology centers throughout the whole country, from north to the south, so that the centers can help with this training and get more exposure to Malaysian companies in this particular Plug Fest program, so that they can have a real life experience of implementing a simple Industry 4.0 project. So that's number one that we have done. The other one is that we wanted to get the Malaysian companies to be global. And how do we get it to be global? But we can do that if we give them a chance to serve the MNCs and the large local companies. So we encourage MNCs and large local companies to buy local. The minute they buy local, then we get a waterfall effect. We get the tier 1 companies to serve the large local companies or the large MNCs, and then the tier 1 companies will outsource some of the work to tier 2 to tier 3. That's how the waterfall effect comes in. So I always call it the Inari waterfall effect, because Inari have shown that they have purchased hundreds of millions of local equipments in their factory, and they are going to continue doing that. Not just Inari, we have ST Micro and many other companies doing this. So that's the other program that we are encouraging large local companies and MNC buy local. And the third area, I guess, is that we talk about talent. We need to work on the talent part to get more people to join the factory. So one of the questions is, how do we get, for example, workers in the factory? So we came out with the Academy in Factory program to encourage and motivate the Form 5 leavers, school leavers to join the factory. And we show them a career path right at the beginning, that after you join this program, after 18 months, you can become a technician. So hopefully with these programs, we'll get more people to join the factory.
Okay, thank you, Dato Sri. Very interesting. You mentioned about three areas, three most impactful program initiative, which related with, if I can see it from the perspective of this MPB, related to technology, related to talent, and then a business environment. On the Platfest, clearly it's related to technology, and then to bring Malaysian company to be global is on the business environment, and then the talent to through this Academy in Factory. All these initiatives are interrelated, and then we can see that efforts has been done by public and private sector to address this issue. Okay, next I'd like to hear from Mr. Mac regarding M&E, the most impactful initiatives in the M&E productivity nexus, and then which you can share with the attendees today.
In the ME sector under EEPN, the most important thing is mainly to get the companies, especially SMEs, to understand what sort of business approach that they are going to take. So how do they move forward, and how do they come out of being what they are to be able to compete with what's happening in our neighboring countries. And unfortunately, just a byword here, our neighboring countries are moving leaps and bounds, and our Malaysian SMEs are somehow rather very complacent and hard to bring out to change their attitude. So what the EEPN has done is basically come up with three steps in order to bring out the SMEs to change their attitude. Is by helping them understand their problems that they are having. So first thing that we have done is we brought out companies to get themselves diagnostic, so that they understand where is their weakness, where is their strength in financial and in management and in production. So this is one of the steps that we have taken under the assessment tool under P1010. So this has been ongoing, and we have been quite successful in bringing a few companies out to go into this program. Then the second step that we did was, after we have gone through these diagnostic sessions with them, we then get them involved in a physical consultation as to how to overcome some of the issues that they have been identified. And of course this is very slow, and it takes time and is consuming. And this diagnostic sessions is how do we bring the SME companies in the machinery, which are basically batch production as opposed to continuous production, to change their way of production to maximize the automation. Just for everyone's thought is, we keep in mind, MEE companies are basically very singular product manufacturing. Very few of us are involved in mass production, except for those who are in components who may be supplying to some of the bigger supply chain in maybe some of us are supplying to the E&E sectors, some of us are supplying to other major manufacturing sectors. But there are, if it's E&E sector, the supply chain and the components that we produce are quite a lot, therefore they can automate. But in the other sectors, the number of components that we produce are insufficient to automate. So part of the issue that we have is, how do we automate such a company? So this is some of the main challenge that we are having. So the other thing that we are also doing, which is step 3, is intervention. So after understanding what their problem is, how do we intervene into the company in order that they have they will change their way of approach towards the manufacturing, and therefore towards improvement in their productivity. So it is very important that we do this, because if companies in Malaysia don't start thinking like this, I think I will hate to think what will happen to our M&E sectors come next 5-10 years. So these are the challenges that we are facing in the machinery engineering industry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mac. I still remember when the pandemic hit us in 2020. The M&E Productivity Nexus is among the Nexus who are actively promoting these virtual advisory clinics. And then from there, actually, they managed to come out with this diagnostic of productivity 1010, which until now we are using it as a diagnostic tools to identify the adoption of these SMEs related to technology. And then from there, we also identify what the intervention, that is, I can see the contribution, the impactful project under M&E. But also, I also hear that the M&E Productivity Nexus, as E&E as well, they are promoting to promote the Malaysian product, to ensure that our local SMEs manage to compete abroad. But of course, there's challenges along the way. But together with Productivity Nexus, there is many initiatives that the M&E Productivity Nexus are doing right now. Okay, next, I would like to invite Dato Dr. Sany, who are with us today, again, virtual. So please, Dato Dr. Sany, on the CPN, Chemical Productivity Nexus, what are the impactful projects that CPN are doing for the improvement of the productivity? So please, Dr. Sany.
Thank you, Dr. Jadi. Well, in answer to your question, we've got many projects on the pipeline at the moment. Some are short-term returns, and some are rather long. Rather long too. It takes about 3 years before we realize and can see the impacts. But let me talk about immediately this year what we saw. As I've said earlier, tadi, yang we trying to reach out and look for SMEs. We managed through offering of workshops and many what do you call that, workshops and programs. We managed to start attracting SMEs. The small players started coming in. We offered them free webinars and all that. And over time, it's a bit like a success spiral. More people talked about this. More people came on board. More people got registered with us. And we started out with, as I've said, when we started out this journey, we had about 250 companies registered, most of them through associations. But now we have over 3,000 companies registered with us. When we used to run workshops once, it used to be one workshop every year. We now literally do lots of workshops. I mean, you're talking about one per week for a whole year. That's close to about 100 over workshops a year. And we used to have 10, 15 people attending a workshop. Now we have close to about 1,000 participants and coming into workshops. We not only got to know them, they also get to know us, and we are also in the same process. In the same time, we are imparting knowledge, we are imparting training on matters health, safety, environment, which is important for the chemical industry. We are imparting knowledge on responsible care for these industries. We are imparting knowledge on how they can be efficient, use of technology to leverage their businesses, and lots of this. And that's one of the success stories that I want to talk about. The other success stories that I want to talk about is I want to talk about this the industry. In the chemical industry, one of the biggest exposure we have in the chemical industry is not in the plants. It's not, because the plants are very well regulated. They've got their own set of rules. They've got their own set of people, their own set of governance, how now they do. But the minute a lot of the dangerous goods product leaves the plant, and goes on the road to their destination, that's where a lot of these exposures are. So the chemical industry has done a lot in terms of database, collecting and knowing who drives for them, what vehicles being used, what products are being carried on board, companies that are engaged with us. And not only now within companies, you can leave one company within the industry and join another company. This database is kept. So the industry has a huge database. But a lot of the work done by the industry is very manual. Every time a new driver comes in, manual check needs to be done, whether the licenses are valid, whether this driver has got a history of abuse, drug abuse, whether these vehicles are fit for purpose. They're passed through Puspacom checks. They all both driver and vehicle are fit for purpose. So it's a lot of work for the industry. So but nonetheless, it's lots of data has been accumulated by the industry. Now, what we have done, we've been talking to the authorities, basically, to people like JPJ, people like Puspacom, people like and all the other authority, people like DOSH and all that. And most of them, under the Rancangan Malaysia ke-11, the government has given them huge allocation to develop their own database. But this database apparently is for their own use, which is silonated for their own use. And we are now in the process of talking about exchanging data, the industry and the government exchanging data. We've got some data which the regulators want, and we've got and regulators have got some data which we could use. So we've got a major project called MyTDX, which is My Transport Data Exchange Project, which I'm really looking forward to. Once My Data Exchange portal is ready, once we have the interchanging of data between the industry and the government, we will have huge knowledge, huge and wide knowledge of who's driving for us and with what and where they're going and all that. Give you an example of how it can impact and favor government. Sekarang ni, if you want to see if a lorry on the road has got, if a driver is driving a lorry on the road is licensed, if a lorry has got road tax, the only way is perhaps you do a roadblock. You berhentikan lorry tu, you minta driver punya license, you check, or you look at the driver, the lorry's road tax, and then only you know whether it's expired or not. But if JPJ shares the data with us, we will make sure that all lorries that is working for the industry has valid documentation, which means ada documentation, no work, they will not be employed. So in many ways, we will be complementing the government to make sure that the operation, the road transport operation, complies with the regulatory needs. So that's one example, yeah. Then there are many examples of good things that will come out of this MyTDX platform, in which we are now talking very intensively with the authorities. Thank you.
Okay, we continue the panel discussion session. So the third round of the discussion is more to the way forward and the call to actions. This question for Dato Sri Wong. Recently, the ENE celebrate the 50 years anniversary of the ENE sectors in Malaysia. I believe that based on the recent event, together with the minister, we can see that there are many achievements by the ENE sector. But the way forward, how do we see, and then how do you find that the potential of the sector in bring to contribute to the economies overall in Malaysia, and then of course not only local but international? This Dato Sri.
Okay. As you know, the E&E industry is what we call it, a very important industry in the country. In the recent RMK 12, it highlighted it as one of the strategic and high impact industry, one of the 8 industry that have high impact. So we need to focus on this industry, grow and nurture it. I call it the golden goose of Malaysia because it is growing at a fast rate. Last year we grew 18%, and this year I think will be another double-digit growth. And for the world, the CAGR for the electronics industry is at 7.1%. And not only that, the countries and companies all around the world, if you accumulated them all up, they announced $550 billion investment in fabs over the next 10 years. So which means that this investment is very significant, and there are lots of opportunity actually for Malaysia. We need to seize that opportunity and not miss it. So the way forward for us would be, one, try to get as many companies to embark on this Industry 4.0 journey, to increase their productivity, to catch up with technology, and to keep up with the pace of productivity. So in that way, Malaysia can be globally competitive. That's number one. And we intend to reach out to more companies to get them to have the experience of Industry 4.0 and implement more programs in the factory. And we hope we can succeed. Two is that we want to promote our Malaysian companies to the world. We know that we have very good companies in the automation side that serves the semiconductor industry, but they're only serving a small percentage of the market share. We want to promote them more to the world so that they can become significant and make Malaysia the automation hub, one of the automation hub of the world. So that's our challenge. How do we promote them? We are working with Matrade on Semicon Connect. We are working at SME Corp on MatchMe and Prestige program. And we are trying to work with any government agencies that can help us. So recently when we launched the Silicon Malaysia map, hopefully we can use this map and tell the rest of the world we are very significant in the country and in the world. Okay, so that's the second part of promoting our companies to the world. And the third area is to encourage more companies to go into design development. How do we do that? So today I want to highlight 2 companies that are doing that very well. One of them is SkyChip. They are the first company in Southeast Asia to do an IC product design. That's very good. That we are embarking on an IC design journey that very few can do. Secondly, we also have another company called SwiftBridge. They develop a high-speed cable, 110 gigahertz, one of the fastest in the world, that can support 5G and even the satellites. So we want more companies to come out like this. And so we are working with NCER to set up the Northern Corridor Technology and Innovation Center. And this center, we're going to start off with organizing the Center of Excellence, maybe in Industry 4.0, in mechanical design, in IC design, where the center will help them to lower the cost to entry in design development. How? We are trying to work with the vendors to provide them tools so that the cost of using the tools goes down. They don't need to buy the tools, but they can use the tools, and then we get NTIC to sort of partially sponsor some of the development program. That will lower the risk of doing design development, but hopefully we encourage more companies to come in to do into design development. That's what we want. We want to go up the value chain. And last but not least is our talent. We need to nurture our talent. There are many engineers who are not getting a job. We want to reskill them and get them back into engineering. So what we have done is we have done training for these engineers between 1 to 3 months, and after that we try to get them back into the job. So 3 years ago we did it for 121 engineers, all of them got placed, and recently this year we did 28 engineers and all of them got placed. So we want to get them back because we don't have enough engineers, and we know that these engineers can be trained and they can get back into engineering. So these are the way forward that we are working on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dato Seri. Can see that the aspiration for future E&E is much aligned with what MPB stated in the 2017 and continue. We believe that because MPB is the continuous guideline for us in order to improve the productivity. The first one related to technology adoptions, promote Malaysian company to the world, and then the related to talent, and then promote the new areas, the high value added areas on the design. Okay, next maybe I would like to invite Mr. Mac on the way forward, and then what are the initiatives that the M&E would like to emphasize to look forward in the future to spearhead the productivity improvement, of course, to bring this subsector at another level. This, Mr. Mac.
Well, after hearing what Dr. Wong is saying about the E&E sector and what he has done in the talent of engineering, the engineers, and also the automation, I think these are very great inspiration that we in the M&E sector will also have to think about. I mean, once we are onto it, are we doing it aggressively enough as what the E&E sector is doing? I think we should review what we are doing so that in a way we can bring our companies, the SMEs especially, to the level of what the E&E companies are. Just that one thing that we see is talent in the M&E sectors are very lacking. So lately the government has introduced a lot of schemes, and STEM is one of them, and also the other thing is the machine engineering sector has involved some of the universities to try and work with them on their curriculum to be more industrial related, so that what the industry needs. So I think this is a very important part for us. One, the STEM, which is, and also TVET, the students that come out of it must be relevant to the industry as opposed to be just a hand skill. So we think those has to be relooked at by a lot of TVET institutions. The other one is also the universities, the students that are coming out, they must not be just pure science, but be more industrial related, so that those students, when they come out, are aware of the industries as opposed to just being a science-based type of graduate. The other thing that we are looking at to bring the machinery engineering forward is to look at clusters. The trouble is the machine engineering sectors are very singular in nature in the way they operate their business. They're very singular and home-based, family-based type of company. The E&E sector has shown that clusters that does work, and we have seen this happening in a few of the E&E sectors. We believe that the M&E sectors can also emulate this to bring various M&E sectors together so that they are follow under the same protocol, the same type of standards. Therefore, with that sort of clusters, they can pull to more multiple products for them to be able to look at the bigger market share, especially in the global market. I think today our SME problem is they are not fully aware of what all the various class requirements and standards are required in a global scenario.
Yeah.
The day that we are trying to bring them up to understand that, to know what it is, and up their products and their and their compliance, then I'm sure that our SME sectors will, MAE sector will go forward. All these are necessary because we have to bring our people to understand. Our neighboring countries, because of their bigger population and also they come up hungrier, their machine and engineering sectors are growing by leaps and bounds. Our industries now, growth is there, but are we growing the same pace, or are we going to be outpaced very soon by our neighboring countries? So it is necessary that the way forward, that our industries in the MAE sector change their thinking, change their outlook, and I think there's a lot of need to be pushed to how to bring them from just being just a pure little family business into something that they can hand over to the next generation into a more global scale as opposed to very domestic. So last but not least is, of course, being Malaysia being a country where we rely on a lot of foreign labor, I think the time has come when we all have to slowly change our dependence on labor and look at automation. So E&E sector has been quite successful. We would like to think that there's a certain amount of automation that we can put into the ME sector, even though there are batch production, to look at how to automate certain parts of it to bring themselves forward. So these are some of the way forward that we think that can be done for the ME sectors, and I think these are the way that we would like to push it forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mac. Interesting, because in MNE also, I also hear that one of the focus area related to the awareness, as you mentioned, is lack of awareness of the local SMEs on MNE related to the international requirements, international standard that which the companies should have in order for them to penetrate the international market. And then I also like to share that with Mr. Mac related to the requirement related to this ESG, environmental, social, and governance, also very important nowadays.
Yes.
So this is an area that which the industry also should aware in order for them to penetrate the international market. On top of talent, and then talent, the mismatch of the our local talent based on the industry requirement, and the dependency on this foreign labor. Okay, next I would like to invite Dato Dr. Noor, which I believe that Dr. Noor would like to share the way forward. And then they are currently, I also aware that chemical product productivity Nexus, they are actively promoting initiative in order to encourage the data sharing to ensure the safety, the transportation of dangerous goods, chemicals goods, and this thing. On top of that, there are other initiatives that maybe Dr. Noor would like to share the way forward of this chemical productivity Nexus. Please, Dr. Noor.
Yeah, Dr. Jadi. Tadi just I mentioned already about data exchange lah. My TDX and data exchange program and all that. So I think let me not repeat that, but let me just say at this juncture that this MPC development is a fantastic development. The opportunity we had now, in the past, both government wants to do what's best for the nation, and industry wants to do what's best for itself, which is go into business, to make Malaysia a profit nation in itself, enhance export, bringing in wealth into the country and all that. We're both talking the same language. We both have the same aspiration. But now the beauty of it, within my Nexus, within MPC. We've got government, we've got regulators, we've got academia, we've got industry, we've got the banks. We're all sitting down in one table, and we are ironing out what needs to be ironed out in a collective manner with the same vision, which is sustainability. And I think this is a magic formula, and I'm looking forward now with the onset of the 12 Malaysia plan, with all the initiatives that's coming up. And I think to put the thing in a nutshell, this is brilliant. It's an opportunity which I personally have not seen, and I think will propel our nation further, much further within the next 5 years.
Okay, thank you, Dato Dr. Noor Sany. Next, I believe that all the panelists has shared their thoughts on an experience related to the respective productivity nexus. Dato Seri Wong, the champion of electronics productivity nexus. Mr. Ngan Boon, the champion of machinery and equipment productivity nexus. And Dato Dr. Noor Sany, the champion of chemical and chemical products productivity nexus. Maybe I'd like to summarize based on the discussion. We can see that all three factors for productivity related to talent, technology, business environment, we are still in the midst of promoting the initiative to address the issues under these three factors. And then we can see that for certain initiative, for example, under digitalization and automation, we can see that the gap between the small and large companies getting bigger, and then we need to get support from the industry in order to reduce the gaps. And then when it comes to the issues on talent, issues on the shortage of local talent, the mismatch of our local talent is still occurred in the industry. And then we can see that the industry, through the productivity nexus, continuously engaging those involved in these issues to come out with the solutions. For example, as mentioned by Dato Seri, related initiative related to AIF, for example, and then issues related to technology. Mr. Mac mentioned about this, the importance of automations, and then go for digitalization, which the industry, especially the SMEs, still lack of, and then of course related to the awareness. And then the third one related to business environment on the regulations. I believe that, for example, in chemical and chemical products, productivity nexus, they are also experiencing these issues which hinder the productivity of this subsector. Okay, with that, thank you very much all the panelists who are attending the session physically, and Dato Dr. Noor Sany, who are attending the program virtually. And we like to thank you all the attendees for attending this forum. And then we hope that the launching of these three sectoral productivity nexus for E&E, M&E, and chemical productivity nexus can provide insight and then more initiative which is driven by the industry to improve our productivity, and for the industry and for the nation. With that, thank you very much everyone. Have a nice day, and salam maju jaya. Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Thank you.